So on this episode of Tuesday Talks, I'm joined by Tommy Kelsall, someone that I've got to know very well through the Blues Focus podcast and really enjoyed chatting to him over the last couple of years. Tommy, how are you doing at the moment?
Good man, how are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. And nice to chat to you and sort of get to know you a bit more because obviously I know quite a lot about you having worked with you at Blues Focus for the last couple of years. But prior to that time, upbringing, everything. So I know that you lived in Birmingham when you were younger, a bit different to my upbringing because being a Blues fan where I live, then you've got no chance of speaking to anybody about Birmingham, let alone Midlands football. So for you growing up in that kind of Birmingham atmosphere, what was it like being a Blue Nose?
Well, tough to say the least. I grew up in a small town called Quinton, just on the outside of Birmingham. I was sort of born inside the city. I grew up in Bearwood and Moseley. And the school that I went to was technically in the Black Country, so a lot of kids at that school were fans of like West Brom and Wolves and Villa, obviously, because they were doing well at the time. So I think at the time I must have been like one of maybe three Blues fans in my year, because obviously in primary school, obviously the years are separated into two classes. So I must have been like one of two or three, maybe. I think even one of the Blues fans actually became a West Brom fan, which always still doesn't sit well with me over all these years. But I've always been Blues. It's always been something that's very much in our family. I used to live in Birmingham, but obviously I live up north now. We obviously my family of all heritagely from the northwest. There's actually a town called Kelsall, which is my last name, not too far from where I live now. So it's almost like coming home. So I think it was sort of just like my great granddad came down from St Helens to Birmingham to find work, and then he had three children, which was my granddad's brothers and everybody. And then they started going to the Blues, and then that's just how it's all kicked on from there, really. And that's how the family tree follows with Blues and everything. Because I'm a Blues fan, my dad's a Blues fan, Jack's a Blues fan, mum and everybody too, and everybody else pretty much in the family as well. So like all my granddad and all his brothers are all Blues fans, and all of his relatives and every children going down as well. So it's a nice tradition to keep a hold of. And I don't know, supposedly when you move away from the city, sometimes it can feel like you're not quite a part of it or anything. But I don't know, Birmingham for me has always been Birmingham City. It's never quite been like the city itself. It's always just been the team and the family and everybody around it. So I don't know, that's probably where I get that sort of feeling from being Birmingham City, really. I don't think the city, because I mean, we've got Villa, we've got West Brom as well. So like, and with them being better teams, I would supposedly say, because obviously West Brom have been in the Premier League and they're still in the Championship, they're in a higher league. So people do tend to sort of follow like the better teams if they don't have that sort of family connection, really. But yeah, that Birmingham City is just Blues for me in that way.
Yeah, because like with my family, you've got the side of it that my dad's side that's like mostly Birmingham, and then you've got a couple of West Brom fans in there. Shout out my uncle. And then
Yeah.
on the mum's side of it as well, you've got like my mum, granddad support West Ham, and I
Mhm.
sort of like went to both teams' games or whatever. And the first Blues game I went to was a 1-0 victory against Wigan in the Premier League, and it was a very
Oh God,
uneventful
yeah.
game. Like James McFadden scored a penalty to win it, and there wasn't a whole lot that went on in the game. But from that moment, I was like, yeah, Blues are my team,
Got
really.
a weird story about this because when we moved up here, my dad worked for the Cheshire FA here, and a guy called Trevor Massey used to be a Premier League linesman. He was the linesman that got knocked out in that game, so that he was running down the line. I can't remember who it was. I think Ridgewell put a challenge in and missed the ball or something like that, and then he hit the corner flag, and the corner flag hits him straight in the face there, and knocks him unconscious, and they have to take him off and get somebody else on. But that was the guy, and that he works there. He used to work there at least. But I'm still quite good friends with him, and so is my dad and everything. So it was like, that's you, that's you who was getting knocked out in the Blues game. It's like, how weird is that? He's been on like Deal or No Deal and stuff like that too, which is really strange. But yeah, weird coincidences sometimes when those happen. But Blues Wigan was your first Blues game.
Yeah, yeah, and the most eventful thing was not something that happened on the pitch, which is very
Yes, exactly.
typical
Yeah.
in a way. But like, I don't know what it was like for you, but I sort of when I think back to like my childhood support in Birmingham, and you think of the League Cup final, and
Mm.
because I went with my dad and my younger brother, and I imagine you've done the same thing, and when you're there with him, say for instance, when I was with my dad, I could see how much it meant to him after the final whistle when we'd won the
Mm,
trophy. And at that age, you don't quite understand how much it means to someone that's older than that's seen a lot more football than you, as to like the
mm.
thing of winning a major trophy when you're not up there competing for trophies every season. So, what was your experience of the League Cup final? Because obviously it's an unforgettable day for Blues fans, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh man, honestly, like I was just in floods of tears when we won because I hadn't really experienced like a really great moment in football supporting the Blues. Obviously, I grew up watching the Premier League, and those years in the Premier League before we won the Carling Cup as well were like proper peak Premier League football days, really. So to actually win a trophy, and I mean, like my dad was, very emotional about it and very happy. And, obviously you say that seeing your dad and seeing how much it meant to him. But I feel like everybody that was in that crowd there was just like the relief. And even being how old would I have been in 2011? I'd have been like 7 or 8 or something like that. But even still, like just to win a trophy and see how it means to everybody around me and everything, that was just so overwhelming. It was so fantastic, and even though I'd only been alive for 8 years or so, and my brother even less, but like it was just, it was like you know how it feels to be sporting the Blues as soon as you start going because you can sort of get that feel around it and everything, where it's just like we're a massive club, we've got incredible fans, and yet we don't get the sort of recognition or the sort of accolades that we probably deserve as a club like this. You see other teams in other cities and towns and everything, and like they do win things like Man City before they won the Premier League and the FA Cup. They hadn't won something for like I don't know 40 years or something like that prior to that. But like Blues, we haven't like won anything, and we're still like this incredibly massive club. But yet we all, even when you're 8 years old, you still know that things like this don't happen. So that it was a milk in the moment really, and to beat Arsenal as well, the cup final, and the way we did as well, we played so fantastically. With the way that Zigic was just bossing up front, bossed around Koscielny and Chesney all game. Larson was fantastic. Keith Fahey as well. What a great player he was. I think Craig Gardner had a bit of a disappointing game considering that he took us to the final as well. I think like he would have wanted to have scored again and tried to, win us the cup for it. So I imagine he would have felt a bit disappointed with his performance because did he get subbed off? I think he did as well. Um, but yeah, like those performances from those players, Barry Ferguson, Lee Bowyer, who definitely should have had a penalty in the first few seconds of the game when Chesney came out and collided with him. And then the goal to win it as well was just utterly mental and holding on for 4 minutes as we just just holding out for everything really. But yeah, it was a completely unforgettable day. The travel down it was quite rainy in the morning. I remember it was really sort of grey and miserable. I thought, I ain't so unsure about this, but I don't know. Maybe it's just because I was a younger kid or whatever it was, or just like some sort of mysticism. But I just had a feeling that we were going to win. I just thought that there was going to be a something that happens, and in a weird way, I don't know whether this is just whether my memory works like this, but I had a feeling that Martins would be in the goal as well, whether he would set it up or something. But we just signed him in that January, and he scored against Sheffield Wednesday in the FA Cup a few days prior to that. I thought he's going to have some involvement in that goal. I just know that he is, and he did. But I don't know whether that's just my memory working in the way it was. I was only 7 or 8 at the time, so maybe it's just the way I remember it. But yeah, crazy day, really, truly unforgettable, as you say.
Yeah, and like the Martins goal, I didn't actually see it because I had my head
Mm,
down, even though I was on I was like really close to like the corner flag, like literally on the front row, as like the
mm.
BBC and Sky cameras were like panning across. And when Martins' goal went in, like I was just looking up because I was so nervous that I just couldn't watch it because I was thinking like it's going to go to extra time, it's going to go to extra time, and like
Yeah,
you kind of felt if it did go to extra time, then Arsenal may have nicked it because they've just got better quality
I
options like
think
off the
so. Yeah.
bench and like better quality players in general. So if you had to play the game over a longer period of time, then maybe their like quality would have shined through. But we just had that character about us that day. And
Mm,
earlier on this year, I spoke to Stephen Carr, courtesy of Blues Focus, and like being able to speak to him about the day was just like a real pinch me moment because he was the leader of that dressing room, and he said to me that there was just no characters in that dressing room, no prima donnas, everybody just 11 people plus the subs all towards a common goal, and
mm.
you really got that team spirit about that team. And it's such a shame that they got relegated because we finished on about 38 points, which should comfortably keep you up in the Premier League in today's climate.
Yeah. No, it would. We just we had too many games in the end, didn't we? And it was kind of the same tale for the next season because obviously we had Europe and we had a decent FA Cup run as well, and the playoffs as well. So we just, I think, I can't remember exactly how many games we played in the end, but like we just like got absolutely worn out in the end, and we had injuries as well. I remember that Zigic didn't play a game after us. For us afterwards, he just got injured for the rest of the season. And by the last day of the season, we had to play, like so desperate to get another goal. We were sticking Roger Johnson up front and trying to save our season, really. And it was just typical that Roman Pavlyuchenko, who we were trying to sign the year before, or at least trying to loan, ends up scoring 2 goals and relegating us. But yeah, it's the way it was, and it's the way football was. I think we would have bounced back quite comfortably had it not been for the fact that we'd won the Europa League in a weird way. Won the Europa League, gone into the Europa League by winning the League Cup, because those games, even though they were great, that we needed to play them in the Premier League. The signings we'd have had would have just been, we'd have been able to have played it easier, because obviously the Premier League's got less games, and we were trying to push for the promotion spots as well. It just got exhausted towards the end, so it's a shame. And the way that the club was at the time with Carson Young going into bankruptcy and everything, it just came at the wrong time, but it was kind of at the right time as well. To win a trophy in that time was like brilliant for the fans. But then everything that followed afterwards was just disastrous, and it's taken us decades to recover. And it's only really now that we're actually sort of making those small steps to get back towards where we need to be, really.
Yeah, and I think with Birmingham, that's the biggest what if moment that I've experienced
Mm.
as a fan, because you kind of think, what if we would have stayed up on that final day against Tottenham, being a team competing in Europe in the Premier League, we would have had like someone with a lot of money that actually was like a decent human being come in to like take us over and have a bit of
Yeah.
stability on the pitch. Whereas like because we got relegated and we're in the Championship and we had to completely overhaul our playing staff and the coaching staff as well. Like there was just
Mm.
so much turbulence around the club, and it just seemed to be that like, especially in those seasons with like Chris Hughton and Lee Clark, and it was just like a different 11 each time, wasn't it? And we had to
Yeah.
try and find that stability, but over time it just became more and more tedious, and then over time we dropped further and further down the table, and then we end up getting to 2013-14, which is like what, 3 years after we got relegated, and then we found ourselves on the final day against Bolton, scoring that late Paul Caddis winner. And well, I say winner, it was an equaliser, but obviously it felt
It
like a
was a
winner.
winner for us, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And like I remember that day, like not being at the game, but then also like looking on my phone, and I think I was in Boots or something, like with my dad and my brother, and my dad saw it on his phone. He just started running up and down the aisle, was just like shouting, and I
I
remember that so well.
Yeah, and literally, I was exactly the same. I was at, strangely enough, I was at Warsaw because my football team was at this sort of day out or something there. But I'm exactly the same. I can't watch unless I'm at the game. I can't watch the game if we're playing like in a massively tense environment. So I think the 3 times that we were in a relegation battle, so in 2011, 2014, and in 2017 when Adams kept us up against Bristol City, I couldn't watch it. I just genuinely like I've got to turn the telly off, go away, do something else for a bit. And, only one of those times we did get relegated, but, Brighton was on the Wolves, really. But yeah, I can't watch it. So you got to go away, got to go to Boots for a bit and just keep on just a close eye on the score. And just like, as soon as that goal went in, like, I think everybody was just like, how the hell have we done this, honestly? Because we were just like on our knees at that time. And it really did save the club, that goal.
Exactly. And like you go sort of further on, and there's a little bit more stability added with the Gary Rowett team. And you kind of felt that that was a bit of a renaissance in the characters that we had in a team. Finally, we sort
Mm.
of had like a settled 11 with players that didn't necessarily cost a lot of money, but again, we're all fighting towards one cause. And you get your characters, like Clayton Donaldson's, David Davis,
Mm.
Michael Clifton, Beld, Michael Morrison, just players that, were all on the same page and like proper Blues players. And then comes the new ownership and all the changes and getting rid of Gary Rowett for Gianfranco Zola. And at that time, were you actually vlogging then, or had you not started vlogging by then? Because I kind of think of that as the time frame where I really started to get involved with like Birmingham chat on social media. I don't know if it was the same for you.
Yeah, so the first time I properly started doing the vlogs was in that season. And so the first vlog I ever did was a 3-0 win against Hull. Against in March of 2018, March 17th. I remember that date really well. And I kind of got into it, not really from Brummy Joe and Davo, who, I still massively love and everything. And, to have that sort of connection, being like known as a blues vlogger is still really baffling, really. But I was more influenced by people like Casey Neistat, who were like sort of just daily life vloggers really. And I thought like they had such a cool lifestyle and just the way that they travel the world and everything and going on planes and having these amazing experiences. I thought that's what I want to get to, but I know I can't do that because I've not got that lifestyle and me just sort of filming myself when I'm like 15 going around the house. I'm like, no one's interested in that. So I had to sort of find a way in. I thought the way I'd do that is by going and filming some of the Blues games. So I thought, just try it out and see what I do. I didn't really have the confidence to go and put like myself in front of camera at the time. So I put some music on over the background, sort of just like little clips of us driving down, which I've always quite liked the travel aspects, from being, a fan of Casey Neistat and that sort of thing and bits of the game and everything. I didn't have the sort of plan that I have nowadays, but I just sort of like clipped in little bits from highlights of goals scored that day, and it was an amazing day, obviously with like all the snow coming down and everything, and the winning 3-0 against Hull as well, because I think they were like well, that might be a different season actually. I thought they were like a playoff team. I don't think they are. They were actually. I think it was before like Jared Bowen and everybody started coming through for them. Um, but yeah, we won 3-0. It was a really good day. It was sort of like the start of like that sort of revitalizing towards the end of that season actually with Gary Monk and everything. And the team looked good as well. We had players like Jota and Adams and Duke. It was sort of just the beginning of that sort of good Monk team that he brought together. And it sort of just followed on from there then, because like we went to Bolton away because it was my brother's birthday the following day. So we thought early birthday present. And I thought I'd do it again, because the first one didn't get like amazing amount of views. It just got like, I don't know, maybe like 50 or something views and a couple of likes here and there. And I thought, yeah, I'll go and try it again, and did the same thing, and bit of travel up there and everything, a bit of music. And then after I'd uploaded that one, because we won and Duke had, scored again to help us out and everything, I thought, okay, this is going pretty well. And it got about 150 views, I think that one did. And then Adam from Blues Focus, obviously at the time we were called BCFC followers. Um, they reached out to me and said, "Would you make some for the channel?" And so I was a little bit hesitant at first. I thought I was only like what 15, 16, something like that. So I was thinking, do I really want to do this? Like it's quite a lot of work. And I didn't know at the time because obviously we weren't season ticket holders because we lived up north. We hadn't been since we were in Birmingham. And also as well, we weren't season ticket holders for a few years because we didn't want to give any money to BSHL or, I mean, no one knew they were called BSHL at the time, or at least not as popularized. But we didn't want to give any money to the owners because we thought they were a bit crooked and everything. And we just didn't believe that what they were doing really. And so we thought, right, well, I initially I said no actually, which is ridiculous to think actually this could never have happened. But I said no just because I was like a bit unsure and I was, a little bit very unconfident in myself at the time. I was just sort of like as a kid growing up, I was always quite quiet and reserved and just sort of not really making a loud shout about myself. I was just sort of like the kid who turned up at school, do all his work, and then bugger off home for a bit. So doing something that was going to get a bit more publicity, even though BCFC followers at the time only had 190 subs, which is mental to think considering where it is now, with the sponsorship and, the viewing figures that it even has, even compared to like some big YouTubers, it's still not big, but like it's still much bigger than what we were. I thought I'd give it a go and then see what it was like, and then did a couple of videos. But I went to Burton Albion at home, which did all right. Duke scored in the last minute to equalise for us. That was a good video actually. And then I did Bristol City away, which was like the first proper away day that any of us in our family had ever done really. Like particularly it was like a Tuesday night or something like that. I remember there was Champions League games on as well, which I was a bit disappointed in missing actually, because I think Roma beat Barcelona 3-0 to go through to the semi-final. That was where my life was at the time, but it was more focused on the Champions League and not Blues really, which is criminal to think nowadays. But yeah, I just thought it looks good, and I wasn't really particularly pleased with like how my videos were going at the time. But then the last day of the season when we played Fulham, did like sort of like a bit of a production around that and tried to really put all my effort into it. So I thought, now this could work actually. Like this, there is something that looks good for it. And I thought at the time, there was Davo that was doing it, there was Brummy Joe, and I was thinking, it's going to take a lot of effort to be in with that crowd. And obviously, I'm not really still, I'm not bothered about that, but like I'm just happy to do the videos. But I thought I'd keep on trying it and do different things. But I think at the time it was just my confidence really, and because there was a few people in my school that sort of seen it on YouTube and that, I was like, I don't like that, I don't like that sort of people coming up to me and sort of saying those things like, oh, what are you making YouTube videos now? Because I tried it a couple of times before, just doing like FIFA videos and whatever about that. I can't remember what else I used to do. I think I used to try and do like skit videos and that sort of comedy videos, and they were like shite. So I decided to take those down and everything. Um, I think that's just where I was at the time, being a younger kid and trying to be like one of my favorite YouTubers who I had so much admiration for. I just thought I can't really do it. So I decided to step away from it at the end, sort of like the end of 2018. And then obviously, a couple of games after that and the season ended and Monk got sacked and Clotet came back. And then towards lockdown, um, in that sort of April time, Blues Focus had a rebrand and they came and asked me if I wanted to do some stuff again. And obviously, I thought, well, I can't do the vlogs again because obviously we haven't got a game. But I thought over that period of time, from like I think it was April 2020 to whenever we were going back in towards the start of the whenever it was that the next game was, which was August of 2021, I think it was. So I thought I'd give it like another try whenever we can next go to another game. And I grown up a little bit. I was like 18 when I first started it up again. So I'd grown up, I'd gone to college and sort of got a bit more robust about things and become more of a man, I would say, because I was a kid when I first started doing it and got a better idea of how to edit and, film things and not being too sidetracked by people sort of looking at you weirdly, because even though that, obviously this become more successful than it has, um, sort of talking in front of a camera in front of like, thousands of people sat around you and thinking like, what's he doing over there? That's just like, you got to get used to that. You got to get used to people sort of like looking at you oddly or talking to you or something like that, saying what you're doing and that. But I got used to that very quickly. And then when the video started to get really like a bit more of a viewership, I remember the Forest at Home vlog that we did. It was 3-0 Forest. That was the first one that got like some real good attention. And then it was Blackburn away. That one got like 4,000 views within a couple of days, really. So that was like, okay, that's quite impressive, really. And then from there on in, it just sort of like started to pick up more attraction from Blues fans itself, because at the time it was mostly just away fans because we kept losing. It was mostly just them just coming to gloat and put funny comments in and everything, which is fine. I've got nothing against that really. Um, and yeah, it took off from there really. It was just sort of like how it is now really, and the production value and everything. I've kept on working at it because I want it to be better and I want it to be my career one day, and I'm working hard towards that.
Yeah, and like with sort of working towards it becoming a career and everything, and you said about content creation and like having the confidence to do it and like kind of almost developing a personality in front of the camera to kind of show that like, yeah, this is who I am and this is the kind of videos that I make, and kind of striking that balance as to what you want to be as a content creator. And when
Mm.
I first noticed Blues Focus, it was during the protest, like for the West Brom game, where the
Oh God,
BSHL
yeah.
out stuff. And that was when I really like took attention to your guys' channel, what you were doing. So
Mm.
talk a bit about that experience and being able to I guess show live what you wanted to show and the message you wanted to try and convey as well, because obviously the Blues fans at that time were very unhappy with the board. But during that time, were you trying to sort of spread the message not just to Birmingham fans but a wider range of football fans as to what's going on at the club?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because I worked well with the Blues Trust at the time, mainly because my dad got involved with them and he wanted to really push the trust to come and help out with the protests. Because we did the one with the big Sell the Club banner at the front. So I designed these, so like these little leaflets that were being handed out. I would have liked them to have been a bit bigger because they did look a bit pathetic when they're holding them up just like that sort of size. But they had all the stuff on the back, so I designed all of them. And I think it was Mike Jabari of the Stationery and Print Centre who sort of got us the hookup to sort of help out with that sort of stuff. So we did that protest, but the other ones that had happened before, they pretty much were done the same way. Actually, started from the Rainbow Tavern in Birmingham, and then all the way through Digbeth along the main road and everything. and that sort of thing. But I feel like the message at the time was very much sort of catered towards a blues audience, because I think Paul Delves and people like that had done that with like their banners at the front, and they were all great and everything, and they really had like a great sort of message going out and everything. But it didn't look at the time like the protest message was quite as simple as that. So me and my dad sort of worked together with the trust and that sort of thing, and tried to just mainly put it as like as simple as possible. So like with the blue and everything and the Sell the Club Blues badge at the bottom. No other sort of links to it, because it was the Blues Trust and other fan groups out there that had helped out with that. But it just needed to look like the Blues, and I think that was the message that we were trying to get across. And as Blues Focus at that point, we were heavily involved in helping out with as many protests as possible. But really, like the message was from Blues fans, and so we were just there to just film around. And then after the West Brom game, that was the game that happened with it all, really. So it was just like the focus on the selling the club and everything, because the club had been run so badly over the last few years, and like at the time, like the lower tiers and of the Cop and Zilton was still closed, and they were closed for like like 3 years, I think it was in the end, because they got fully opened in the Leicester game last season, and that was December of 2023. So like considering like where you started at like August of 2021 and then 23, it's like still not done, and it's like it's taken them that long to get it all done. So yeah, it was better for the club and everything, and try. I think we just tried to remove ourselves from it in that way. Just like it's not about Blues Focus. It's not look at Blues Focus. They're doing amazing work here. It's like, well, no, this is just the fans. We're part of the documenting all of it really. So I think that's where the idea came for that protest. I can't talk really on like anybody else, but everybody was on the same ship at the time. They all wanted the same thing, and credit to everybody that did come out and protest and weren't afraid to do it as well. Because it's sprouted into something brilliant, really, with Nighthead that we've got now.
And obviously, the club now is in much better hands than what it was in the past. And I suppose that lends its hand to making videos a bit easier to make, and you're a bit more passionate
Mm,
about what you're doing because, as you said, a lot of people sort of lost interest in blues, but now you really feel that the Laps fans are back involved, and you get all these
yeah.
League One home games that are sellouts. And when you go to home games, it's just that different atmosphere, the atmosphere that I associated with going to blues with when I was much younger. And I
Mm.
feel like that feel good factor is back at the club now. So for you making videos, what is your favorite part now about making videos compared to, I guess, before and what didn't exist?
That's a good question. I don't really know how to answer that actually. I think what the difficult thing about with making videos for YouTube is that there is always a viewing figure at the end of it. I think if I'd have just been making like films almost and sending them to a film company, I wouldn't have had like an eye on like the views and the likes and everything and the sort of the way it's been shared. And I think that's some of the tricky bits of social media sometimes is that when people look at them, you think, oh, he's just doing it for the views or whatever. But really, I'm not. I'm doing it for the love of, because I'm a filmmaker at heart, and I just do it because I love making videos and love the blues at the same time. So it's like a sort of match made in heaven, really. Um, but yeah, I suppose it can be a bit tricky. But I think what I just enjoy now is just like the atmosphere because like we went to the Blues Barnsley game, and the atmosphere there was fantastic all day. Proper singing and everything, and having like that whole away end at Oakwell is just fantastic, and all the photos that have come out from the Blues Instagram team, the old photography team and everything. It's just like, wow, it looks incredible, really. I think it is a bit of a shame that we are in League One because if we'd been in the Championship and pushing towards the top, going for the Premier League, I think that would have been a bit more exciting and meaningful. But I don't know, this season can feel a little bit meaningless at times because of being in League One and everything. Because we should be better than that. No offense to any team that are in League One, of course, but like, we're a team that should be in the Championship and pushing for the Premier League. We have always been that sort of team when I was growing up, sort of just up and down and everything. And then obviously 10 years of being in the Championship. But it is just mostly for making the love of the videos, really. And, the attraction you get off social media is to hopefully one day make a bigger career out of it, because I can then um, take that sort of inspiration into other aspects of making films and everything, whether that be for like advertisers or for my own YouTube channels and stuff like that. But it's just that sort of experience, really. And going to every Blues game, we're season ticket holders since we first started going back again. Um, that we love going the Blues still. It's still fantastic to go to and everything, and seeing everybody that comes up to you and says how much they like the videos. So yeah, it just to continue to really create them, really, like whatever league we're in doesn't really matter and everything. But I always love going the Blues, even when we've been crap over the years. It's something to do on Saturday. It's something that really brings people together, and it definitely brings our family together because I don't know what the hell we do about the Blues. I don't know what type of family we'd be like really, whether we'd go and play golf at a weekends or something like that, whether we'd be sort of, I don't know, like a traveling sort of family, go out and go to a different city every year or something like that, or whatever. But I don't know. We just based so much around the Blues that if it had just sort of disappeared, which I think we were worried about really with the protests, was like if nobody does pick it up and there is no sort of bigger audience out there, because that was the idea with those protests. Is the one we did was that we need to get Sky and people down to come and actually talk to us and get it out there that things like that were happening. Um, I think that did help in a way. I don't think that it was the final straw or anything. I don't think that was the final domino, but it was definitely the fact that we're worried that the club is just going to get run into the dirt here. So we need to act now, and we did. And I think some of the resulting things that happened on that night really did help with the selling of the club and the marketing of the club as well. Because here we are as a, I've said throughout this whole podcast really is that we're a club that have got a massive fan base, yet none of the trophies to go with it really. So and as Tom Wagner says, our CEO, chairman, he says like the unlimited potential of Birmingham City, and that's the future of what could be, So, it's fantastic really to see that that is happening. But yeah, to answer your question really, like in terms of like what's the idea I get, what's the enjoyment I get out of it now? It is just making videos still and going the Blues and everything and taking the pressure off myself sometimes. I still do worry about things when it comes to like, is this video going to do well? And I'm a massive overthinker, I stress about everything. But I just make sure not to get too sidetracked by that and trying to keep just enjoying what I'm doing and going at my own pace, and if people like it, then great, if people don't like it, then it doesn't matter at the same time, so just enjoying what I can do, I still love making videos. I still love the Blues. I still love the kit as well, which is always great when you see like a good Blues kit down at the ground and everything. So yeah, it just that sort of stuff really at the end of the day. It's quite a simple game really when you take all the stress out of it.
Yeah, and finally, like at the end of each episode, I like to ask people what is one bit of advice that you've either heard or like took on from someone else that you try and translate into your own life? Because obviously, with other people talking about, as you said, people watching your videos or interacting with them in person, like what's one bit of advice that you picked up from somebody that you've used within your own work?
God, this is a bit tricky. I would say. I probably would have to use this one, but obviously Casey Neistat, big inspiration for me. He always says do more. He's got like this sort of slogan, do more. And I think that's the right way about doing things because if you're an overcomplicator or you just sort of worry about everything, if you just do more and just keep on, because I remember when I was first making these videos that I wouldn't put them out because I wasn't quite particularly happy with them. So I thought, I'll leave it. But then obviously over the years, you've kind of got to realize that you've got to just put it out, even though you're not might be particularly pleased with it. So just do more and then you can work out and then edit and then change things and get better at it over the time, really. That's definitely been greater advice from people that I'm definitely forgetting. But I like that piece of advice though, just because something might suddenly come from it that you might not be prepared for then because like had I had not done like all the editing and sort of gotten used to it, I might not have been able to have carried on and made videos like the Blackpool 6-1, which was really good, or the Leeds vlog that got over 20,000 views, and the Norwich away one, Norwich on the last day of the season one, and bigger videos that are yet to come. We might get the Villa in the FA Cup, fingers crossed. That would be bloody brilliant if we got them. Make a fantastic video. I'd love to make a video around that. So just do more, and it takes so much of the stress away from it as well, then, because you're used to it then, and I've become used to it as well now. So and that's how you become more professional, more mature, and you become more resilient because of it as well. So do more.
Brilliant. That's a perfect note to end on. Thank you so much for your time, Tommy.
No, I appreciate it, Sam. Thank you for the podcast and everything. I usually tune into these, so if you haven't already, like, subscribe. There are plenty more of these podcasts coming up, yeah.